Hey, glory to Jesus Christ. Glory forever. This is Father Anthony Perkins. And I'm here on my back porch. And today, Lord willing, we're going to be talking with Pastor Michael Landsman. And that's going to be a great blessing. He's a good friend. Our families are close. And one of the hard things was moving. With moving, was missing all the friends that we've made in the Lehigh Valley. And I'm thankful for technology that we can keep up to date. Okay, so before we start though, let's go ahead and make that transition together. Okay, we're gonna do our 3 deep breaths. Okay, to make that transition from whatever was going on before. Whether it was problems with technology like we've been having, whatever's going on in your life. Let's step outside of that for a second. We're going to breathe in and say the first half of the Jesus prayer, and breathe out, say the second half, 3 times. Ready? Breathe in slowly. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God. Pause. Breathe out slowly. Have mercy on me, a sinner. Pause. Breathe in slowly. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God. Pause. Breathe out slowly. Have mercy on me, a sinner. Pause. Last time. Breathe in slowly through your nose if you want. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God. Pause. Breathe out slowly, out your mouth if you want. Have mercy on me, a sinner. Pause. Okay. There we go. And now I've got somebody calling in here. Let's see who this is. It's calling in. Hey, glory to Jesus Christ.
Hello.
Hey, there he is. It's Pastor
All right.
Michael. Now I just have to get him to show. There he is. Hey,
All right.
brother. Everybody can see you now.
How you doing?
I'm doing awesome.
I can see you. Cool.
Yeah, it's okay.
Um,
They can see this a split screen. That's what they're experiencing right now.
okay, cool.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, it'd be better if they.
Yeah, that backyard.
Yeah, I got the backyard going and everything. Yep. Yeah. So, up there in the Lehigh Valley, things pretty quiet.
Yeah, things are as quiet as they can be, I guess. We are. We've been making good use of the time with, potty training and
Oh.
getting Isaac started on not Hooked on Phonics, ABC Mouse,
Yes. Yep.
which is this thing that it's heavily advertised, like on Disney Junior. I'm sure y'all know what it is, your listeners. So, are you seeing me okay? I'm having trouble seeing you. It keeps popping up a poor connection.
Oh yeah, we're seeing you okay. Your voice went a little weird for a second, but that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I lost you. It keeps telling me poor connection.
Beautiful. Well, you're okay here.
hmm Okay.
So, yeah. So
All right.
potty training, and you've got this. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Now that he's going, I can just kick back and relax.
Right. Right. So I was wondering. So you're a pastor, right?
Yes, sir.
And a good pastor, and your wife,
Okay.
she's a stylist, right? And a good one.
Yep.
So I'm thinking that
Very good.
should come out of this like being the most well-adjusted and saved person on earth,
Of
and
course.
you should come out like
Of course.
looking like a rock star.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, she's going to be completely sanctified by the time this is all over. And I'll look good, but at least one of us will be sanctified.
And Isaac will be potty trained. Knock on wood.
Hopefully, God willing. Yeah.
Oh
on
man,
my
the only
desk.
thing, let me tell you, the only thing that compares with that, because that's huge, and the relief afterwards
Mm,
is huge. The
sure.
only thing that compares in terms of kind of stress, yeah, it's stress, is teaching a kid to drive.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, not part of my skill set. Not part of my
I
skill set.
remember when my mom taught me to drive. When the day I got my learners, I almost got us into a head-on collision. Almost.
Almost. Yeah, I almost took out our house because I was coming. You know, my mom was in the passenger seat. It was one of those Pinto station wagons,
Oh,
and I'm about to, I swing out so I can turn into our driveway at speed. Of course, why not? Right?
yeah.
And she goes, brakes, 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 and so I panic and I hit the wrong pedal,
Ooh.
and yeah, it was a close thing. It was a close thing. So
Yeah.
my poor mom.
Wow. Yeah. Mine too.
Yeah,
Mine too.
and God bless my son Nicholas. He's um, we finally hired people to teach him. It just wasn't. I
Mm,
wasn't up for it. I was gonna have
yeah.
a nervous breakdown or something.
Yeah. Like for me, I'm like, okay, it's been a few weeks now. You should be a pro, but it's not so,
So yeah,
like he doesn't tell.
yeah. So are you bribing him? What's
So we
what's
have
the
to watch.
mechanism?
Yeah, we're bribing him with this show on Disney Junior called Bluey that he likes. It's a series of shorts made in Australia, and they're actually pretty good. They're not as annoying as some of the other, and actually some of them are quite touching. So he's that's like his that's the carrot, I guess.
Ah,
Is if you go, we'll let you watch Bluey, and so that works. But we have to like time him. Like he's gotten to the point where he's good for like 2 hours, and then we're like he should probably try and go.
yeah,
But every once in a while he'll say, "Mom and Dad, I go potty," but not all the time.
yeah. Okay,
So we're
getting
on
there,
that road. We're
getting
on
there.
that road of getting to him to actually telling us that he has to go.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. I bet you he's into everything. He he's at that age, right?
Oh,
Awesome.
he's everywhere. He's all over the place. I take him for walks around the neighborhood, and he doesn't want to walk. He wants to run. And I'm like, we're on a street, dude. Like, he just wants to run.
That's great.
I'm like, see
Oh,
that sidewalk over there? Wait till we get to the sidewalk, then we can run. And then he doesn't want to wait. So sometimes I just let him run, but I like,
yeah.
watch the road ahead. Don't look at me
Yeah,
walking him off.
Isaac's your first child, right? And
Yeah.
so you're very protective. You're a good dad, anyways, right? Um, the
Oh,
joke
I hope so.
is the joke is that by the third or fourth, you're like, yeah, come home
Yeah.
when you're hungry, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Go out, play in the street. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. Yeah, our we're doing pretty well. Um, it's weird though, right? It's weird. I mean, we've done this before. My wife's been working from home for like 18 years over the internet. So she's kind of
Yeah.
to you know
Sure.
used to it. And I was a full-time pastor for what 12, 13 years where I worked out of my home.
Mhm.
So we're kind of used to that. And we
Yeah.
homeschooled all of our kids except Claire at least part of the
Oh wow.
time. Um,
Sure.
but so we're kind of used to living together and coming up with schedules and giving each other privacy, respect and privacy and things. But what we're not used to is the thing that everybody is. Just we're not able to go and do the
Yeah.
stuff that used to be so much a part of our not just our routine but part of our self care. So
Yeah.
that's weird. That's weird.
Yeah, it's interesting trying to find ways to continue to care for yourself while still now having to be more present for your family because you're working out of the house. This is the first for me. Like there's been days where I've worked from home before, but I'm doing all of my work from the house now. So it's interesting trying to find that balance of, okay, I'm going to come down for lunch, and then I'm going to help out a little bit with what I can, and then I'm going to stop and then head back upstairs. I can take a break to stop and go outside for a few minutes, and it just kind of figuring all of that out and saying, okay, I need to go up, close the door completely, and just I got to get, because there's stuff I got to do. I still have to try and do my best to pastor, even if I'm not as available as I was. The church is locked up, and we don't really open it except for when we go to do streaming services. And even then, it's only 4 of us that are there for that.
Yeah. Wow. And how is your community doing with that? Or do you know? Do they just kind of check out, and you hope to see them when it's over?
No, they whenever I put something out, they seem to respond well to it and communicate well to it. With the services, there have been members who've been trying to get more involved. Like, okay, here's a picture of our kids. They've got palm leaves or even just regular leaves. We're still going to walk around and do a procession in our living room. Take a picture of your kids. So there's a degree of activity that people are still trying to have with the streaming component of the service, which I like. And I've also been putting stuff, basically using our Facebook page as a even bigger hub than it already was before.
Right. And that's a good thing. You were already doing stuff, so you have to scale up. Right. And maybe add a couple of tools, but you were already doing a great job putting out audio and video of your homilies. You'd recap them sometimes, so you were on the ball. And I don't know if your people were watching it then, but I'm sure when you send them your emails every week or something, you'd have links and stuff, so they're used to that.
Yeah, I got them used to a while ago, expecting to at least see me once a week on video at the church on the Facebook page. So what I would do is I would either do a sermon recap, or I would do just like a weekly update of stuff that's coming up in the church, along with, like, generally what I would do is I would post the audio of my sermon on a Tuesday, which then automatically updates on our podcast. And then on Wednesday or Thursday, I would upload a video of me just going over some things that we might need to go over. And then, maybe me posting, or there's other people who have access to the page. They would post on it throughout the week too, little things here and there. We try to coordinate. So there has been, since I've gotten there has been an effort to try and use that as a space to communicate, even though in the understanding that not everybody on the church's membership rolls is going to be on there. But what I am finding interesting is it looks to me, I could be wrong, but it seems to me as if the videos that we're live streaming seem to be connecting more with more people than those original videos would have connected with. Good. Like, there's more people watching who may not have watched. There's more people checking out who I would never have guessed. Like, there's a guy who commented on one of the services that he hopes to see me again soon at the coffee shop. I mean, I can't remember ever seeing him come to the church, but I remember talking and chatting with him at the coffee shop that I go to in Northampton. Shout out Taylor Roasted Coffee House. It's pretty
awesome
great.
Place, great coffee.
So it's interesting how
friendly service.
I love it.
Wonderful environment. Love that coffee house. Yeah. So cool. So
that's a great.
And you're able to do that. I mean, the podcasting, the recording of video, all this kind of outreach. You're able to do that because you had a couple of classes on that in seminary, right?
Absolutely. They have a technology 101 class, and they go over everything you need. No.
Yeah, you kept a straight face for a second there.
I did. I will say this. In seminary, I had to do a video session for one of the counseling courses that we did. So I had to set up and I had to kind of figure out how to use iMovie to record myself interviewing, doing a session with somebody and then submitting it for grading. So there was a technological component to it, but there's nothing going on in seminary that I'm aware of, at least the one I went to, about here's all the technologies that you can use, and here's the different ways you can experiment with those technologies in your service. I feel like that's kind of been left up to specialized people, and I think that there are churches who are actually hiring people to do stuff like that. Like, that's their job. You come in and your job is actually to be part of a production team that produces the services, and that way the services can have some sort of audio visual quality that's consistently good, complete with graphics and all that kind of stuff. But my own context now is I'm very much not in that world anymore where stuff like that happens. And we're basically just streaming from my laptop with my camera and then connecting the audio from the mic. We have a little soundboard in the back that's in the corner, and then we have like a Zoom H6 or some type of unit that our creative director uses, organist, to like kind of put the sound in the system so it doesn't sound echoey. So it's interesting, all of the different balls that you kind of have to learn how to juggle, pastorally, and
Right,
that they don't
because
actually prepare you for.
most of us, we're operating really, thin margins in a lot of our churches.
Sure.
So, if you don't have like a teenager with spare time or something, somebody can do this for you. You're doing it yourself, which means you're not, you're doing it well enough, but not as well as those others. So there's that one thing. And then another is that some traditions don't lend themselves to having that kind of expertise on hand.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that a lot of these traditions that don't have that expertise are starting to play catch up now because they're seeing there is some value to it, but at the same time, it's also like these traditions are also trying to figure out the levels to which they can use it at all. It's sort of like when I was growing up as a kid, there was a guy named Willie George who started using puppets in children's ministry. And people are like, you can't use puppets in children's ministry. That's worldly. But then it caught on, and now, well, up until a certain point, most children's ministries were at some point using puppets in a certain sector of evangelicalism or whatever. And now you have traditional churches like Orthodox and Roman Catholics and maybe some traditional Anglicans and Lutherans who are confronted with this. Well, how do we distribute the sacraments? How do we baptize? Like, do we use a super soaker? Like, can we do virtual communion? And it's interesting how I've seen in some of online discussions.
Oh my.
How some people are like, absolutely, you can do virtual communion. And some are like, you absolutely cannot do virtual communion.
Right.
No, this is against our... and it's interesting how it's causing this.
Oh, it's an interesting... It would be interesting if it were a conversation. But so often what happens is you put the other person in the box, you label them as heretical or fundamentalist, and then you're just done. Right? And what was another interesting thing was watching how that changed as we started to take the coronavirus more seriously.
Right.
Right? And
yeah,
what it tells me, and this is something that it's my hammer, so everything's a nail, sure. But is once again the need for diversity. So diversity, and here diversity of risk profile, right? You need to listen to the people who are highly conscious of risk, as well as people who are just like risk smisk, we're plowing through, right? And you got to have them all, and they don't get along real well sometimes. It's so easy for them to demonize the other, but to kind of listen and say, well, where are you coming from? So early on, and this, unfortunately, it started years ago, right? It's germy, don't use a spoon, maybe we should use plastic spoons. And that was a very fringe, right? And then now we're to the point, because the coronavirus, was real, is where you've even got the most conservative, like the Moscow Patriarchate. I mean, I saw guidance where their priests were to, between every communicant, clean the spoon with alcohol, right? So it's, and so the conversation then becomes, how can we deal with this with dignity and within our tradition, right? And it's, it's that conversation is best when it's done with charity, with patience, generosity towards the intentions of other, and with that kind of listening. Okay, you're suggesting this. How, to me, that feels like it's a violation of our tradition. Explain to me how you reconcile those two. That's the way to ask it. right? Not to charge the other person with some kind of heresy or disrespecting the sacraments,
Right.
or of being so so blinded to risk that they don't care about their people. It's a weird way this thing gets
Yeah.
wired. So,
Absolutely.
anyways, that's like I said, that's my hammer, that's my nail,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, it's interesting how that curve, that shift. I remember reading online, from more Orthodox groups. There's no way this will ever happen. You can't get sick from the elements. And then some were like, well, no, you can. And some were like, well, what? We have celiacs, so every time I take communion, I do get sick, but I do it anyway because it's the only option I have. And then people are like, well, you should never get sick. And it's interesting. I said this on another thing that's coming out in a little while, but it's interesting how this crisis has turned even traditional expressions of the faith, like Roman Catholics and Orthodox, essentially into word of faith, like name it and claim it types, where it's, do you believe hard enough? Do you have enough
right,
faith to believe that this is the body of Christ? And then if you get sick, then maybe you didn't have enough faith, and that's why it didn't work for you. So maybe you should believe harder.
right, yeah, that is such a, you just don't want to go there. So, anyways, and I'm not up to that conversation today because it's just too heartbreaking.
I got you.
Because
Yeah.
what I wish is that as a first principle, we approach these things balancing love of God, and hence a desire to worship Him fully, with love of neighbor and a desire to be His pastor. Right? And we don't. So, anyways, yeah, it's fascinating. And then we've got Holy Week. You're in the middle of it. Today's your Monday, Thursday, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you gonna have what are you gonna do? Anything?
We haven't done anything. What we would on for the people watching it on chat, where you would do it at the to communion and so the series of meetings, and then after reading, the candles were extinguished, and then the last candle is extinguished, and everybody leaves in darkness and in silence. And that's one of my favorite services to do. And we can't do it this year because of all of this stuff. And so trying to figure out how to incorporate elements of that into maybe some other things that we're doing. So we are having a Good Friday service that we'll be streaming at 7 on Friday evening. So we will be having that, and I will be at the church doing that. And then we will be having Easter Sunday service. And another service that I love is the sunrise service, because it's essentially a chunk of the vigil that we do 6 in the morning as the sun's starting to rise. And one of the things I started incorporating was a procession, outside around the church with the Christ candle. And it's like one of the only services we sing, because I'll stand there with a candle and sing, come receive the light from the light that is never overtaken by the night. And I won't be able to do that this year. So how can I still have these elements in Easter Sunday worship and communion? Like, what are we going to do about communion? That was a big question that I was going back and forth over about it.
So here's the thing. So, because one of those dialogues that's happening, sometimes well, sometimes less well, is how much can and should be done at home, right?
Yeah.
And in the Orthodox tradition, you wouldn't have a home communion service. You wouldn't have the head of the household consecrating bread and wine, right? You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't even, because that's a priestly function, right? And we have roles in the Orthodox Church. Now,
Sure.
And some people are so, are so uncomfortable that might get violated, that they're uncomfortable with a home celebration of, Thursday, including a family meal, right? And I mean, I can imagine a lot of priests and bishops just losing their stuff if they found out that families were reading those Bible verses at supper, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so there's a question about what what is useful, what isn't, and the safest thing, I think, for priests and bishops, in terms of various things, including control, is, but also a presentation of the fullness, at least visually and audially, is to live stream a well done service, right? And
Yeah.
we've got that pretty well handled. But then the question is, well, that doesn't scratch the itch for a lot of people. It's
Right.
And it's some people who have a high view of the dignity of communal worship, right? It feels too much like entertainment. So the home worship option there really is the most authentic way that they are going to enter into the spirit of that service. And so the question
Sure.
then becomes, what do you do? And we have a tradition in the Orthodox Church of having readers' versions of services, right?
Yeah.
But of course not of communion services. You take that part
Right.
out. Anyways, all that's to say it's tough, and I certainly don't mind that there are many different solutions to this, and we'll have an after-action review, or what's called in the Army a hot wash, in a few months, and we'll figure out,
Yeah.
hey, what did we learn from this, right?
Yeah.
But so where are
I think
y'all
for
at on that?
I'm sorry.
Where are y'all on that? How much do you encourage people to do at home, and do you worry that if they find out that it feels good to worship at home, that they might not come back?
Yeah, I know of churches who big churches that were live streaming, but then they switched away from live streaming because they felt it would be stealing too much from people actually showing up. So they did away with it, except if you lived in a certain mile radius outside of the church. Then
Like a
they made it
football
available.
game. It's like a football
Yeah,
game.
pretty much. Yeah, yeah. Because they wanted people to show up, and
Right.
I kind of appreciated that, right? Like they
Right.
live streamed, but only for those who weren't there. So my tradition is basically an amalgamation of basically 4 different streams of Protestantism kind of coalescing. So pretty much every major Reformation movement sort of came together to form the denomination that I'm in. So there's lots of variation within the denomination on this. So for me, I don't like the idea of. I don't mind streaming. I think streaming is fun, but it's only. It should never take the place of. It should never. It should never take the place. The last thing I would want is for somebody in another state to say, "Pastor Mike's my pastor. I watch his services on live stream. He's my pastor. That's my church. I'm a member of that church." And they don't actually go to their own church. Like, I don't mind if somebody from out of state is a member of another church and they like what I have to say and they watch it and they appreciate it. I'm totally fine with that. But I can't be your pastor virtually. And I kind of go back and forth on the streaming thing. Like, I think it might be a good idea to invest in some cameras because we seem to be getting some interaction online. But will that interaction online transform itself into people actually coming and becoming part of the church once this kind of slows down? So I'm always kind of on back and forth about that. And so I've been thinking through ways of being able to continue to do this, but then maybe having a cutoff point. Like, so say if we're celebrating the Eucharist, I'll say, okay, I'll come out if we were live streaming and say, this is the part of the service. Thank you so much for joining us. The doors, basically, right? Except our version. Thank you so much for joining us. We're moving now to the service of the sacraments. If you would like to, if you'd like to experience this, come and join us. But we're going to end the live stream now. Thank you so much for visiting with us. Then end the live stream, and for the people who actually gathered at the church and go into the. I think that's a helpful way of doing that without. Because you can't give them a whole experience virtually. Like, you can only give them pieces. And so you can prepare them like we did for Holy Week. We sent out the orders for Palm Sunday, Good Friday, and Easter. But we sent it to like our entire mail list. We didn't just post it online. We sent out a mailer so everybody could have it in time. And that is kind of the way that we prepared for that. Like we had thought about putting together packets, of palms and crosses, but then as the coronavirus got worse, we are like, okay, this is probably not a good option for people. No one's going to want to actually come and do that. So
Yeah.
we're just kind of making do with what we have, and fortunately, we're able to do it okay. But I'm always a little bit distrustful of the technology because it can breed a false sense of togetherness where one might not actually be.
Right, and there's one of the variations here. So I'm a social scientist, right? So the outcome is attendance. Okay, one of the
Yeah.
variations that we have across Christian ways of worship is what is the ontology of worship? What is what is communion? Uh,
Mm.
and what is the service for? Right?
Mm.
And so for the Orthodox, it's every Sunday, Christ present in our midst through the proclamation of the gospel, the word, but also in the communion, right?
Sure.
So it's not that risky. It's not going to decrease my numbers, the fact that Father Barnabas Powell is an awesome preacher, right? And he's putting his homilies up, right? And he's live streaming his services,
Yeah.
right? It's not a big deal because it's a local phenomenon gathering around the Eucharist, right? Whereas if I were a Southern Baptist or a Methodist, and the service was centered around the homily and hymns, then it would be a problem, right? If somebody was doing an awesome job preaching and they had an awesome choir, and somehow through this coronavirus it became kind of normal to watch TV on Sunday morning, you could lose that. People, they could say, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know people could preach that way," right? Oh man, I feel convicted, right? I'm closer to Christ now because I've actually heard the word proclaimed well in a way that I can understand. Whereas before, all I heard was Pastor Doug just talking about what he did the day before. Right.
Right.
So I wonder about this and that's why, as an Orthodox Christian, I don't worry about this because we have such a strong sense of what it means to worship in place and what it means to worship around the Eucharist. And sometimes we can trend the other way to where I can't. There could be the assumption that I cannot have an authentic experience of God in worship at my home.
Right.
Right. So that's one of the good things that can come out of this. Whereas perhaps for more sermon-based congregations, they can get an appreciation for, it's not just the proclamation of the word, it's the proclamation of the word within a believing community next to each other. Right? Is that possible? Either I just stumped you or we just lost audio.
You lost me for a minute. You were talking about at home with the formation.
Yeah, so I think for your people, if they were used to you preach very, very well. If they're like, I can hear my pastor online, and I'm used to seeing him online now. I'm just gonna do this within the comfort of my living room. But now they're realizing, it's not just about the quality of the homily. It's the quality of the homily received within a believing community.
Right.
It's gathered together to worship God and Christ, right? So a lot of growth can come out of this.
Yeah, I even before the coronavirus happened, I was preparing them. I made basically a call for them. Let's be a little bit more traditional in our celebration of our observance of Lent this year. Let's actually fast, on Wednesdays and Fridays. Let's fast red meat, which is something that I've personally been doing this year, in the West anyway. have red meat on Wednesdays and Fridays. Um, so I called them to do the same thing, and we were having Lenten, potluck soups, and there was no red meat in there. But then I gave them, I stole basically from a bunch of different places, and I said, okay, here's what I want everyone to commit to one day a week. It could be Wednesday, whatever. Take this prayer list, and I want you to pray this. You can add your own prayers here, and it was all structured. And this is what I want you to pray. This is all the set prayers. This is the scriptures that you can read. And then here's a part where you can just put in your own thing. But then, because there's power in a group of gathered people, even if it's at home, all praying the same thing towards the same thing. For the, because we're all, the telos is this is the same for all of us. So I was doing that already. So I'm hoping and praying that during the coronavirus, even though we weren't meeting, they're still keeping up with this, and that they're still doing it, and that they see some growth in their own personally. So for some of them, I just wanted them. See, I don't know who's owning it at home, so I'm hoping for some of them, they've actually, when they may not have had a prayer life, but now they've been doing this once a week. It's been like a stepping stone for them to maybe now start doing it twice a week or a little bit more. Because one of the questions I get asked all the time is how do I pray? And so I think this is a good way. And I always tell them, well, you just got to do it. Just got to start somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if it's short and small and you just have to start. So I believe firmly that that God can reach us and move us in our homes. I believe that God can speak to us through the proclamation of the word, even if that proclamation of the word is virtual. I believe that the Spirit of God is not bound by technology, but at the same time, there's sort of like also I don't know, not a dark side. There's also something to, particularly the Eucharist. You have to be gathered together to receive, right? We don't consecrate over the airwaves. Like, we don't consecrate over Wi-Fi. It's not just the consecration, it's also the reception and the receiving. So what can God do and not do over technology? That, I think that's a debate too many people are focusing on. Like, God can bless over the internet. God can't bless over the internet. Well, God can do whatever God wants, right? God's sovereign. But how has God chosen to act? And how has God told us he will meet us? God has said he will meet us in this way. So yeah.
So
I'm still thinking through and working through a lot of these things.
Well, here's an interesting case comparison. So imagine we are 6th century, Roman Christians, right? Whether we're in the East or the West, and we are. It's a blessing to take consecrated gifts to your home, right? Mm-hmm. So that you can give them to family members, so you can take some during the week until the next time you gather. And then, right, for whatever reason, persecution, or famine, or not famine, pestilence or something like that, you can't go, you can't leave the home, then that's there, right? Because of this way that the church has been doing this, ritualizing this. Okay, that's one data point, right? Well, in the Orthodox Church, about 1,000 years ago, we went universally to communion by spoon, and certainly not allowing that. But now, so now if someone doesn't, that's not even an option. You want to have communion, you need a priest, you need a deacon to come and bring prepared gifts for you or something. But now we live in a time. Where the word can reach, the music can reach, the fellowship can reach through the technology. So it's not a case. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You find the possibilities within the moment. What can I do now? And you don't. Am I advocating that we go back to a 6th century practice? Well, there's all kinds of stuff that there are all kinds of pieties that were involved with that, right? And we don't have those pieties now. So if you just made that change, it would be
Yeah.
it'd be disastrous. Like you were saying, you have to take into account, what the tradition you've been given. You can't take that for granted, and that's part of the conversation about the restoration of the female diaconate, right, in the Orthodox Church. Is do we have a culture that is going to make this sanctifying for believers, in the way it was when they were, a blessed ministry. So, anyways, very long answer. So I said that I would get the answer to life, the universe, and everything from you.
There you go.
You know what it is, right?
The answer to everything?
Everything, yeah.
Well, right now?
What's the asterisk?
Well, I mean,
I'm going to give you. It's 42. It's the asterisk, right? The asterisk that stands in for everything.
if you. Oh, okay. Well, I tell you what. If your people, if those listening send me a love offering of $100, I'll give them the 100 principles that God shared with me to give them prosperity and wealth and the secrets of the universe.
Oh, you're good. You're good. But you need to route that through me. So send that to me. PayPal.
Of course. You're obviously. Well, yeah, it's going to go. I'm going to do through your shell company in Axios. I'm going to send you something there.
Because that would be an Axios.
Yeah, it would be an Axios. You know what? Or what I could do is be like the old the sorcerer from Willow. He's like the ability to control the universe is within which finger? It's not. It's in your own finger, not mine. That's the answer.
Ooh, deep. I haven't watched that since the 80s.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus now. I think, and I have it on DVD. It's I love pulling it out every once in a while and putting it on. That's pretty great.
Nice. So, are you doing any gaming right now, or is this one of the ways that you're kind of deprived?
I mean, things, even when I'm not working at the house, I'm just being present with family a lot, so I haven't really had a lot of time for gaming. My wife did say it was cool for me to buy a game on my laptop instead of a console, because my phone is really old, and so the battery I've already replaced it, and I need a new phone. So it's like, should I get a new phone, or should I splurge and get a Xbox One X or something like that. And then I'm like, why can't I do both? But no, I can't do both. So I might jump back into if I can make time, get a World of Warcraft or something on my laptop. But the classic, not Battle for Azeroth. They have the original now that they re-released 6 months ago. So I might jump back into that should I have some time, which I don't have a lot of right now.
Right. What's the word on Dungeons and Dragons Online? So the actual, it's an old platform. Is it?
Yeah.
Is it worth doing? Is that a thing where you could have a party where you could go in and?
I don't know, but I have heard of people playing them virtually, over Skype or something.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
we do that. We do it over Discord. Yeah, and we bring in because my son and his friend they'll play with us, and we have a game going, and they just solved they beat the first big boss, right? So now they're going into the second major part of the campaign.
Okay.
And what I did is I took the old Drow series, right? The ideas there with the Loth and everything. Sure. And then I imbued it with the chaos from Horus Heresy and Cthulhu, right? So that when someone dies, their bodies start to bubble and stuff, and they become these these horrid chaos creatures, right? So anyways, so we're already using and the technology is good enough to where you can manage that and it not be a detriment to the flow.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't had a lot of experience with D&D. I like playing it. I just haven't played it a lot. I was in the middle of a campaign with a friend, but then even before the coronavirus, one of the major players moved out of state, and it kind of put a damper on all of that. So now we're playing card games and stuff. But I mean, now we can't because of coronavirus. So I was actually thinking about reaching out to him the other day and seeing if we could do like an online D&D campaign, or if I do get WoW on my computer, like, hey, let's go level or something. That
Yeah.
way, because I miss that. I
Right.
do miss that. Like, it was a really good time for me to just not have to, like, I can go and I can play and I can have a good time, be away, like be out for a few hours and then come home. I really enjoyed that. And my wife, like, she knew I needed it and I liked it a lot. So she was very cool about, yeah, just go have fun.
Yeah, and there's a
So now we have a new
camaraderie.
baby on the way too. So there is a
Yeah.
camaraderie and I miss that. But now
Yeah.
we have a new baby coming in July. So that's like yeah, that's going to be a whole, I won't have time for anything pretty soon.
Right, yeah, so enjoy it while you can. Yeah, we got a
Yeah,
comment.
exactly.
So Brett says, so I was playing Dungeons and Dragons with my priest, dot, dot, dot. Yeah, yeah, little known, no, it's not a secret. Yeah, I do play. Because it's cooperative storytelling. That's the way we play, and so you put people in these dilemmas and, they get to make up characters and have their variable responses and the group dynamics and things. It's just and there is the development of camaraderie that you do need. My kids,
Yeah.
um, they uh, the way that they are staying sane in this is that they're still playing their games um, with their friends online, you know,
Sure.
and they talk to each other on Skype while they're playing and stuff. So they maintain that
Yeah.
connection, and that's really good. And they were doing that before, right? Whereas for us old
Okay.
people, it's not natural. So
Yeah.
we have to go out of our way and say, oh, let's FaceTime with the friends, and you have dates.
Yeah.
It's arranging.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You have to, yeah.
you dropped a conversation bomb there. You're expecting a baby. Tell everybody.
Yeah. Baby girl in July. End of July.
So awesome.
Yeah. We're pretty excited. So we just got a new travel. Some friends of ours had a really good quality travel system, stroller and car seat and stuff. We just picked that up actually yesterday. And then we had to go pick up some sundries at the store. So yeah, we're preparing. Like we got to switch Isaac's room because he'll be going into another room, and the baby will be coming into his old room, getting him a bed. And Shante found her old bed from when she was a little girl that we
Oh,
stained and set up, and now he'll have that as his bed. So we're all that. It's a lot of prep, And sometimes I got to be honest, I don't. Well, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? I'm like, I don't. I care, but sometimes in the moment, I'm like, I don't care. But I
but
do care,
but you
and
know better than to
sometimes I just don't
say.
want to talk exactly. And sometimes I don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't know. It's not until July. Like,
Yeah.
we don't have to figure this all out now, but we kind of do. So that's yeah.
Yeah, and so how's Isaac doing with it? How's he doing with having to change rooms?
Well, he hasn't done it yet, but he will. It will be happening probably next month, I think. So we'll see how it works. We're hoping that he'll be fully potty trained by that time. So because his room is the room with the only upstairs bathroom in it. So
Oh, yeah,
he'll
good
so
deal.
hopefully he'll be trained enough he can just go and wake up in the middle of the night and not have to wake us up and
Yep,
stuff like that.
very good.
That's the hope.
That's the hope. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. We're all so happy
Thank
for you. Y'all are such wonderful parents. It's really
Oh, thank you.
wonderful.
We try.
Yeah,
We try.
right. Yeah, well, and you also you know kind of what it's about, It's it's about the home. It's about having a loving home, and the two of y'all model that so well. And I know you do it just for your kids, right? It's all a show.
It's a total show. Total show. I'm scared he'll see through the hypocrisy one day.
That's so awesome. Oh man.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So what about you? Is there anything that you're reading now that you're not you're not in school,
Yeah, I
taking
am in
classes and
school.
stuff since
Oh
you're
yeah, we're having classes. Yeah,
I mean you're doing virtual class,
right.
right?
Yeah. Well, for one, we're
Oh,
not expecting any children. Just
yeah.
so, yeah. So school's just really busy. I'm taking 3 classes, right, in the PhD program.
Okay.
One of them is math, right? So it's advanced statistics, and
I failed statistics.
yeah. Well, it's it's a podvig. It's one of those aesthetic struggles for me. I don't enjoy it. I don't. I I understand why I need to study it. I appreciate that. I don't plan on using it in my work, um, but so I do it. And then I'm also
Right.
taking a class on international relations, which is fun because right now we're talking about um, it's a perfect opportunity to talk about the big changes in the world system going on right now. Um,
Yeah.
with because we seem to have experienced some unexpected consequences from interdependence,
Yeah.
international interdependence.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. And then I'm also taking a class on the politics of race and ethnicity, which is
Okay.
awesome. Yeah, and that
Very
so
cool.
all my papers are due like at the beginning of May. I need to write probably about 120 pages. I've written 0, so
Yeah.
pray for me.
Okay. I will. Are you
Yeah,
reading anything for your own self care, for fun?
yeah, I am. So for fun, I'm reading a series. This author, Thomas Dietz, he combines Celtic and Cherokee mythology with modern, or at least 80s modern, uh, northern Georgia dynamics, right?
Huh. Okay.
So it's, I like it. I dig it. Um, so that's fun. That's Dietz and his David Sullivan series. And
Okay.
then another thing that I'm reading that I'm really enjoying is The Courage to be Disliked, which is
Oh.
fantastic, and of course now I can't remember the psychologist that it's based on. It's a 2-syllable name. He was a contemporary with Freud and Jung, but it's a very empowering approach to understanding social dynamics. He says that every problem that we have is a problem of interpersonal relations. And he says, once you learn what your responsibilities are and are not in personal relations, it's liberating. You don't
Right.
find yourself suffering as much, and you can actually be a blessing to yourself and to the people in your world. So I recommend that book, The Courage to be Disliked. It says on the cover that it's a Japanese phenomenon, and I don't know if they're playing on that whole kind of clean up your house phenomenon to sell books or what, but it's
Oh, right.
really it's what 100-year-old European psychology. Um, but I like it because for one thing it's an approach that's empowering. It doesn't say that we are suffering from the consequences of our poor decisions and the poor decisions of others.
Right.
Of course we do, they go, that's not the point. You have what's available to you now, and there's a lot there that you can work with, right? So instead of like Freud might treat someone as a victim of trauma or something, and this way of doing it instead looks at the possibility even within the life of someone who has been affected by trauma. So anyway, good book,
Very
and
cool.
it's done well. So it's in a conversational form between a wise man and a struggler. So I like that form.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's
Very cool.
Those are the two
Very
main
cool.
things I'm reading, and I love listening to podcasts. I listen to Joe Rogan. That's
Oh yeah.
that's a lot of fun.
He puts out so much stuff. I don't subscribe, but I check it all the time to see who he has,
That's what I do.
and I just download the ones that I want to listen to. He's got so much. It would fill up all the memory in my phone if I were to.
Yeah. Well, I recently went back to Apple, right? And I bought myself an Apple SE with 16 gigs, right? So I'm like living
Wow.
in the 90s again or something. So I can have one book, and his podcasts are basically a book because they're 3.5 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got to be careful.
Yeah.
But I selectively listen to him, and then Brene Brown, she has a podcast. I really enjoy her. So I selectively listen to that. How about you? What are you reading?
Father Stephen DeYoung was talking about a historian named Tom Holland and a book called Dominion. So I got that for Christmas and I read it. I read through it pretty quickly. And then I was like, this guy's really good. So I bought his book on the dissolution of the Roman Republic called Rubicon. And then I recently purchased Persian Fire, which is his story of the Greeks and the Persians fighting and all of that, what's going on there. So I've been reading through that one. And I've been really liking it a lot. He's a really good author, and he does narrative history, so it reads more story like than just like dry facts. Like Themistocles did this at this year.
Is it like Gates of Fire? Is it Stephen Pricefield kind of interesting, or is it more historical?
It's more historical. Story. He's still a historian. The way he feels like just dry. This it reads a lot better than read. And liking it a lot. I've also been reading very slowly, interpreting scripture with a great tradition, which is basically this guy sees his historical criticism sucks, and we need to kind of like use it only for what it's good for, which isn't very much. And we should be reading scripture this way in conversation with the fathers and with people and saints of the past, which is kind of how I it's my own kind of personal approach. Like historical criticism has its uses, but that's not the primary lens. I don't think anyone in scripture. So I've been enjoying that and reading through that very slowly. Like you, podcasts. I listen to Rogan every once in a while. I do listen. One of my favorite podcasts. It can get a little. You got to be careful. It's a movie podcast where they talk about. It's called "How Did This Get Made?" and they talk about like these movies and how did they get made, and it can get a little rough, but it's consistently funny, and that's one of my favorites.
Well, Joe Rogan can get pretty rough. I mean, it's the language and some of the topics and stuff, and so you have to listen selectively and stuff. But that's fine. So my kind of model with this format of doing the live streams is like Joe Rogan, but without the cursing and the dope, right? So just long conversations. Speaking of long conversations, we've used up our hour. So obviously we're going to have you back on because we didn't talk about barbecue. We didn't solve all the problems of the world.
We didn't.
So we're going to have to do this again. But Pastor Michael,
gladly.
I wish you and all the people you serve a blessed Easter this Sunday, and appreciate your friendship, and please keep us in your prayers.
Thank you, and I pray for you and your family and the two parishes that you're serving, and pray that God will give you strength and He'll fill your hands with the wind of the Spirit so you can type fast and do your papers.
Oh, thank you. I need that. All right. Well, y'all, it's been great spending this time with you. Tomorrow we're going to have Father Robert Hollett on with us. He's my mentor. It's not his fault that I turned out this way. He did his best. He is fantastic. He's going to share some lessons of mission work, and he was very intentional in how he did it. So he'll share some of those lessons, and also if we get to it on stewardship. And now, let's see, even though it drives my children crazy when I do this, I'm going to read their notes. If you enjoyed this show, please press like. If you want to see more, please subscribe and ring the bell to enable notifications. If you have any input, just contact me by email at father.anthony@yahoo.com. That's father spelled out .anthony@yahoo.com. All right, appreciate your time, Until tomorrow,
Yeah,
Godspeed.
take care.
Thanks.
Cheers.